This is James here with the Oracle Outlook for the week starting November the 12th, 2018. If this is your first time here, I'd like to say welcome, and if you're returning, I'd like to say welcome back. For this week's reading, I wanted to work with one of my Gypsy Witch card decks. So specifically, I am working with the vintage Gypsy Witch fortune-telling Oracle cards. That is quite the mouthful. The deck is by Lynn Boyle, and I will be leaving a link in the description box below to Lynn's Etsy store so you can learn more about the deck, or if you're interested in it and you want to purchase it, you will find all the information right there at her store. The reason for this week's deck selection is that I'm honoring the request of one of my viewers. Her name is Jackie. So Jackie, if you just happen to be watching this video, hello, and this is for you. Jackie was nice enough to reach out to me through Facebook. She sent me a lovely message, and in the message she told me that she had acquired the Gypsy Witch fortune-telling playing cards. I was so excited to hear that. I'm always excited to hear when people are finding out about the deck, they're interested in the deck, they've bought the deck like Jackie has, and they're waiting for the deck to arrive. So that's the space Jackie was in at the time she sent me the message. So I was very excited to hear that and very happy for her, and I hope that when the deck arrives she gets on well with it. But in the course of our dialogue back and forth, Jackie had said that one of the things that she appreciated about my Gypsy Witch fortune-telling playing card videos is that I worked with incorporating the playing cards into the meanings of the cards. And so if you're new to this channel, you're not familiar with my backstory, 20 years ago I had a dream in which I was reading playing cards for myself. And in waking life I had never done that, so I knew the dream was significant. And the dream put me on the path to reading cards, generally speaking. But my first divination system was tarot. And even with that, playing cards hold a space in my heart that is near and dear. So I love working with playing cards in like Lenormand and other systems, that have playing card inserts on the cards like Gypsy Witch. So because of my fascination with playing cards, I always strive to incorporate my particular set of meanings into the cards. But Jackie was fascinated with how I did that, and she was hoping at some point that I would be making more videos and I would be talking more about that. So that kind of prompted this week's deck selection. So Jackie, like I said before, if you happen to be watching this, I'm doing this and I'm going to be stressing how I work with the playing card aspects into the cards themselves. So now, having said that, if this is something that you are doing in your own practice or work with the Gypsy Witch cards, the first thing that I want to offer to you is that you may have a different set of meanings for your playing cards than I do. I have discovered in the course of doing my own study with playing cards, and I talk about this in the first installment of my Cartomancy with Playing Card series. So I will also be leaving a link in the description box below about that if you want to check that video out. But in that video I talk about this idea that I discovered that when it comes to playing card meanings, sets of meanings, systems of meanings, method of meanings, you will find that no two people seem to agree on what the playing cards mean. So what I did in my own personal practice is that I found 2 or 3 sources that I resonated with, and I let those be the foundation for my own practice. And I say foundation because what it is you set the foundation, and then as time goes on, you start incorporating more personal meanings based on your own life experience, and they become your kind of a method or a system or set. But you allow other systems that resonate with you to kind of create the foundation for that. So you may be hearing me talk about the playing cards when I do it, and the meanings may be different than what you may be familiar with, and that is why. So again, we are working with the vintage Gypsy Witch fortune-telling Oracle cards by Lynn Boyle. So I have the deck on hand. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a few moments to shuffle the cards. And as I shuffle the cards, I'm focusing on my usual intention and question for these weekly general readings, and that is, what do we need to know for the week ahead. What information, insight, or guidance will be most helpful to us moving forward? So that is the question and the intention for the reading. So now I'm feeling I need to shuffle the cards my other way, just for a moment. Feeling one more time will be good. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the deck. And fan the cards out. And just like I do more often than not when I do these weekly journal readings, I'm looking at the fan, and I'm going to be drawing 5 cards, because I tend to do a line of 5. This is card 3, card 4, and this one is card 5. All right. So now that I have the 5 cards selected, I'm taking the remainder of the deck up, and we'll put that to one side. Now I have the 5 cards face down in front of me. And so as I was contemplating how I wanted to work with the cards this week, what came to my mind, and I'm honoring that prompting, is that I'll start with the middle card, much like I do with Lenormand. With that being said, the middle card for me always represents the central issue, something we're being asked to focus on, and it's something that is directly involved with whatever the surrounding cards are, or the surrounding cards will be what revolves around this card. So now that I've set that up, taking a look at the card, we have, here we have the railroad. So what I do when I work with this deck, unlike the original Gypsy Witch fortune-telling playing cards, what I do sometimes is I'm drawn to the symbol first and then the playing card. So here we have the railroad, and the first thing that comes to my mind with this symbol is that it can represent a journey, right? And because of the track, the symbolism of the track, it can represent a long journey. Now I'm going to move to the playing card aspect now. The suit of clubs, because the insert is a 2 of clubs, but the suit of clubs, generally speaking, in relation to this idea of a long journey, clubs is the suit that can represent progress being made. So in the center, or the central issue, or something that we're being asked to focus on, and I'm going to go with the idea that this could be more metaphorical, is that we're taking a look at our journey through life in terms of the progress that we've been making, or the progress that we've made. If we've recently made some progress, we've achieved something, it's making me feel like achieving some kind of milestone. I'm thinking of the idea, and I said this once before in one of my other videos, so I'm seeing the symbolism again, is that there was a brand of cigarettes, and I said it then, and I'm going to say it now. I don't know if they still make them, but they're called Virginia Slims, and their tagline that I was familiar with was this idea about, "You've come a long way, baby." That was the tagline. So I'm feeling like some of us have come a long way in our path in life, and we're being asked to recognize the progress that we've made. So that is the symbolism that I get with railroad. Now the other thing with railroad, keeping with the idea that it's a track, this could be about this idea about being on track, like being on the right track, or being on track, or a need to stay on track. Right, so there is that. It could even be that there is something that needs to be tracked, or we're tracking something. So if that resonates with you, go with that. And again, if that's the idea of tracking something, then the suit of clubs in connection with that would be about work. So it could be work in the business sense, where we're tracking something having to do with work or business, or that we are tracking something because we've put work, clubs being work, and in that application, or the emphasis is on some effort. because clubs is about work and action. So it could just be recognizing that we're tracking our progress through the work and effort that we've put into a situation, right? So that is a lot to say about this card, the Railroad. Now, the Two of Clubs as the inset, again, going with this idea that it could be about work or business. So if you're work or business minded, this could be needing to stay on track with something work or business related. The two would be about balance. It could also be about a working relationship or a business partnership and needing to stay on track with that. If it's more of the social aspect, because clubs can also be about something socially related, then this could be about a friendship, and we're needing to either make some progress or note the progress we've made in terms of that particular relationship, or we're needing to stay on track regarding a social relationship, because this card for me can also be about friendship. Two of Clubs can also be about some kind of exchange. The two is a number of sharing or something being exchanged. So there may be something that we're taking a notice of, or we're needing to stay on track of in terms of an exchange, right? And that may be where the actual tracking is, because another aspect of the Two of Clubs is that it can represent a gift, right? So there may be a gift that has been sent, and we're needing to track its journey so that we know it gets to its destination, right? So there may be something that's actually, from a very mundane standpoint, sent out in the mail, and we're tracking it to make sure it gets to its destination, right? So there's that. Now, if we're focusing on the journey of either a working business relationship or a friendship, then the Two of Clubs is a card about the idea about the relationship being mutual, because the Two of Clubs in this regard represents a mutual exchange, something that is mutually beneficial for both parties involved, right? So it could just be a matter of you're being asked to stay on track with that and making sure that there's not an imbalance in terms of the giving and receiving dynamic of that relationship. So again, the Railroad represents a long journey. Two of Clubs in conjunction with that could represent staying on track, or keeping track of something, that kind of thing. It could also be needing to stay on track or keep on track with a working business relationship, or staying on track with regards to a social relationship, making sure that that relationship is mutually beneficial for both parties involved, right? So that is the Railroad and the Two of Clubs. So now let's take a look at the surrounding cards, because they may offer more information, or they may kind of tailor the message of the central card. So taking a look at the first card, okay. So the first card in the line is Lion. So Lion for me as a symbol can represent authority and leadership, if you go with the idea that the lion is the king of the jungle, right? So the idea, anything having to do with, you know, a king could represent somebody who's in a position of authority, somebody who's in a position of leadership. The interesting thing about this particular deck is that there are two cards that I look to in terms of authority. One is the Bear, and you may be familiar with that if you work with Lenormand. In that system, the Bear is also a card that can represent power, authority, leadership, right? But in some particular schools of thought, the Bear can represent female authority. The Bear is also in this system, but with the Lion in this deck, this card for me can represent male authority. So we may be dealing with, for some of us, issues that are wrapped up with a male authority figure, right? So a male boss, male supervisor, something of that nature, especially for those who may resonate with the idea that the Two of Clubs in the middle of the line was talking about a potential working relationship or business partnership, right? If it's a business partnership, it may be a need to determine who's going to be the boss, or are we going to share the leadership, the authority, the responsibility equally. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the Six of Diamonds is the insert. One of the meanings of the number 6 for me is about responsibility. So there may be an issue about responsibility in connection or in relation to a male authority figure. Now, in terms of a friendship, a social relationship, then the lion could be a matter of pride. If we're wanting to maybe stay on track with the relationship or keep it on track, there may be a matter of keeping our pride in check, right? Because I also look at the lion as a symbol of pride or being proud. It could also be too, I'm seeing with this card, I'm getting the imagery of the strength card from tarot. And so for those of you who may be familiar with tarot, in the tarot deck, the strength card has a lion on it, right? So since I'm seeing that imagery, this could also be about one's personal strength, one's sense of self, self-esteem, identity, things of that nature, right? The lion, in regards to the strength card, can be a symbolism, or a symbol of, I should say, about courage, being courageous, being brave, those kinds of things, right? It could also be, too, that the lion, in the challenging sense, could be a matter of when do we roar in the positive sense, meaning empower ourselves to roar, right? And when have we gotten into an unhealthy habit or tendency of ripping into people and biting people's heads off? Because sticking with that, then this card could be about taming or curbing unhealthy habits or tendencies. I'm seeing all of that. So that's the message I would get with the lion aspect of the card. 6 of diamonds. Now, if we're talking about relationships, friendships, whatever the context is, either in the working business sense or in the social sense, the 6 is a number of balance, right? So I'm seeing the symbolism of give and take with that. So we're keeping that in balance. It's also about value. Diamonds are about what we value. So what's the value of that particular friendship or relationship, right? So there is that to consider with the 6 of diamonds. The 6 of diamonds is also a card about communication. So now this could be about the possibility of seeing the value of communication in those particular relationships, because the 6 is also a number of communication. So there's this value about communication in those particular situations or scenarios. So I'm seeing all of that with the 6 of diamonds. Taking a moment to say, what else do I need to say about the 6 of diamonds? Okay, now for me, the 6 of diamonds could be like if somebody's doing something with their work or their business, then some professions with the 6 of diamonds could be needing to do some computer work, something having to do with communications. That's in the very mundane sense. In the more metaphysical sense, I see the 6 of diamonds as doing all sorts of counseling work. So this could be, astrological counseling. This could be psychic counseling, because the diamonds is the suit that can represent psychic energy. So psychic counseling, like I said, astrological counseling, any kind of metaphysical science. So if you're into the metaphysical sciences and you want to be a practitioner of that, then it could just be a matter of what do you need to know or do so people can see the value. How can you communicate the value of that to people? And one of the ways that you can do that, if you do it effectively, it might make you an authority or leader in that particular field or industry, because the lion is outside. It's like being the king of your own jungle or the king in your field. Like, how can you be the leader in your field doing what it is that you do? And the only way you can do that would be to positively, that's because the card is red, the suit is red, positively communicate the value that you are offering in your business, in your service. The 2 of clubs would be about a service type business, right, to other people, right? What would be the benefit for them? If we go back to the 2 of clubs being about benefit, how can you effectively communicate the benefit of what it is that you're offering to people in terms of your service? So that is the lion and the 6 of diamonds. So now let's take a look at the card in between lion and railroad. And here we have, so here we have the scythe with the inset of the 10 of diamonds. So the scythe card. And I guess this is why I was harping on maybe with the lion being about pride, possibly, right? Because the scythe can represent some kind of disconnection. And if we go with the idea that we're going to pair the cards, then here we have, and this is where I'm going to kind of mix and match the symbolism here. I'm taking the scythe, which is about a split, separation, some kind of division, right? It's something that was potentially painful, right? Because the blade is pointing to this card. But I'm going to go with the two of clubs because I mentioned this in terms of a working or business relationship or partnership or a social friendship, right? Either way, it's making me feel like there may be a need to work on repairing some kind of damage that's been done to that particular kind of relationship, right? Either a working business partnership, there may be a split with that, or we're splitting a business, or maybe even needing to split the responsibilities within that business. Who's going to do what, right? It's a division of labor kind of thing. If it's the social, I'm seeing that maybe about what can we do to repair that particular dynamic. It could also be too, it's because it's not mutually beneficial, right? Or that there's a lack of seeing the benefit. Again, going back to this, we have a thing about value again here. Value in that particular relationship, right? And we're needing to either separate that, sever it, you know, in a way that's best for both parties, because here we have maybe a break in the journey, and that could be like we go our separate ways, possibly, or that we're working on repairing the damage that's been done. And with that, now I'm getting another message, and if that's the case, then the two of clubs would be about putting the work or effort in. Remember, I said clubs is about work or effort, and it's about balance, meaning like each person involved has to be willing to do the work for that relationship to work, right? So if there's been an imbalance, then both parties have to make the decision, conscious decision, that they're willing to each do what they need to do on their side of the line in order to make the relationship work, right? So I think with this, I'm getting the general sense, like for some people, they may realize, well, they're willing to kind of reinvest in the relationship because they realize how far they've come or how long they've been in that relationship. Like, it's been a long journey. That's what's coming to my mind. We've come a long way, or it's been a long journey, and now we've come to a point, where we have to make the decision whether we want to keep going, and the only way that would happen is that we see the value in it, and we're willing to put in the work and the effort to make it successful. Now that's where the Ten of Diamonds comes in. The Ten of Diamonds is a card that can represent success. Suit of Diamonds for me is a number of it's a suit of success, I should say, and then the 10 is a number of success. So there's about being successful in that endeavor, right? So there is that. Meaning like we have a lot invested in it, right? So that's what I'm seeing with the 10 of Diamonds. This is a card about being successful, right? And your efforts, being rewarded for your efforts. So it's very interesting. We have two cards from the suit of Diamonds. So here we have success, we have rewards, energy, putting energy into something. And then it's like with the clubs, two of clubs, but the suit of clubs, it's about rewards for work and effort being put into a situation. So that's how I would look at these cards. So as I'm putting them down, make sure I put them back in the right order that they showed up. Okay, so now let's take a look at what's on the other side of Railroad. That made me feel like what's on the other side of the tracks. Okay, and so now here we have, okay, now this makes sense with where I was going. And so sometimes what happens is you start on a certain track, sticking with Railroad, and then as each card turns up, it adds more to the story, and it makes the story become a little more clear. So here we have the Pig card and the Three of Spades. So going with the pig. Pig is another symbol here that talks about abundance. So this could just represent having to deal with something that represents increase. It represents wealth. So again, it may be not wealth in the literary, monetary sense, but it could just represent getting to a place where you realize, you know, that the situation that you're involved in, there's a wealth in it. There's a sense of abundance in it, right? And so it's looking at that, right? So, because the pig is a symbol of good luck and abundance, right? So now with the Three of Spades, and this is where I was going on about this idea about things becoming more clear. For me, the suit of spades can represent a block, a challenge, or an obstacle, right? Something that we need to work on overcoming. Now, the 3 here can represent a couple of things. For me, the 3 is a number that can represent something that's growing and developing. So now here we either have one or two possibilities. Either we have a situation that has a challenge, the problem is growing and developing, right? Or that the number 3 is a number of increase, and so the problem is that there is nothing increasing. There's no growth. There's no development in that. So it could either be one or the other. Either that the problem is that there's no growth, there's no development, or that the problem itself is growing and developing. At the heart of this, the 3 of spades can turn up to suggest there's some sort of confusion, there's some sort of misunderstanding that needs to be cleared up. So if we go with the idea that I was talking about with the 2 of clubs, a working relationship, a business partnership, social friendship, there is something about that situation that needs to be cleared up because there's been some sort of confusion, some sort of misunderstanding, a problem with the way that somebody has been expressing themselves. Now that goes back to what I said with lion being about self-esteem, that kind of thing. So maybe your self-esteem has taken a hit in maybe some sort of exchange with another person, whether in the business sense or the social friendship sense, and we're needing to get a greater sense of trying to come to grips with that or trying to understand that, right? The 3 of spades, excuse me, can also represent an X-ray. You know, so I'm seeing that maybe taking a closer look at something or a closer examination of something, because I'm seeing the symbolism of the X-ray with this card in my head. So it could just be, again, this idea of wanting to take a closer look at something that may not be working so well. Because here we have, with the order of cards, I read the suit of clubs as something that's about work, and then we have a block or an obstacle to that. But it's also about working our way into a problem, right? So there is that. So there's a potential here for some kind of problem through a misunderstanding in a business relationship, working relationship, or a friendship. Now, another aspect of this, and this may be part of the reason why we are maybe considering one possibility of a break, separation, or disconnection, is that there may be another party involved, and that may be for some people where the confusion, the misunderstanding is coming into play here, because sometimes the 3 of spades can represent a third party and the interference of a third party. So if there is somebody who's getting in between you and another person, you may want to take a closer look at that, the X-ray. Like, why is that taking place? Why are we allowing another person to get involved in that situation? Especially if their contribution is making the situation worse, right? So there is that to consider with the 3 of spades. So I'm taking a look at the card and seeing what else do I want to say about that. I'm looking at the image. There is one thing I want to say about this. I'm looking at the image with the pig, and I'm looking at all the little piglets on the back of the pig. So I'm seeing the image, and it makes me feel this idea about support. The back for me can represent issues of support. So maybe part of the confusion, the misunderstanding, the problem is that one person in the situation is not feeling supported, or they're feeling like they're being depended on too much because of all the little pigs. I'm seeing little dependence, right? So there may be a greater dependency on one person, and it's becoming too much. I'm hearing in my head a Kylie Minogue song, and the song is Too Much. So I'm hearing her sing, it's too much, it's too much. So for some people, it may be too much. It may be too much to support people, and it's becoming a problem. Especially if maybe the people could be supporting themselves, and they're choosing not to do it. Right? So there's that. But I'm looking at the image, it's making me feel like there may be issues either A, with support, either I'm not being supported enough, and how can we communicate that in a way? Maybe there's been a misunderstanding about that. We need to clear the air with that. Or that somebody's depending on me too much, right? And then that would make sense with the pig. Remember, the pig was about abundance. It could be too much of something, right? It may have started out just fine, because now I'm hearing a different song, same singer, Kylie Minogue. I'm hearing Too Much of a Good Thing, for those of you who may know her music, her catalog, her discography. I'm hearing Too Much of a Good Thing. So maybe in the beginning or initially, it was fine, but now it's gotten to the point where it's too much. And so how can we work on expressing how we feel about it in a way that doesn't unnecessarily cause any kind of pain or hurt? Going back to Scythe being about being pained, hurt, or woundedness, right? So we don't want to hurt another person. We want to maybe express our point of view or our position in a way that serves both parties involved, or all parties involved if there's more than two people. So that is Pig and 3 of Spades. So now let's take a look at the final card in the line for this week's reading. And here we have, oh, and this is good. Okay, so now here we have the Moon and the 5 of Hearts. So now the first thing with the Moon is very interesting. So now we have a repeating symbol. Last week in the Lenormand reading that I did, we had the Moon show up there. And so I said last week that the Moon is a symbol of career. So that would fit with the work, business aspect of the 2 of Clubs, right? So for some people, this may be a career-related scenario that we're needing to play out, right, with that. Or the other aspect that I talked about last week with Moon was about being honored and recognized. So even in the idea of maybe a social relationship or a friendship, and we're talking about balance and something being mutually beneficial for both parties involved, there may be some sort of a need that's not been expressed, or there's a need that needs to be honored and recognized, right? And that would be how Moon fits into this. Now, if we look at the playing card insert, we have the 5 of Hearts. So now here we have a change of heart, right? The 5 for me represents change, right? And so there may be a need to change how we feel, or a change in our emotional outlook or perspective on it, because the suit of hearts represents feelings and emotions, but it's also the suit that represents relationships, right? And with that, then the 5 can represent activity. I look at the 5 as a number about being hands-on. So what can we do in terms of being active, or some sort of activity that would allow us to change a relationship for the better, because the suit of hearts is red, and red cards always represent something being changed for the better, especially coming after a spades card. So now, I talked about that. So now we have spades, right? If I put the order right, we have a spade card and a hearts card, right? So here we have this idea about emotional loss, emotional pain, emotional hurt. It's just another way of validating the appearance of the scythe in the line this week. So what I love about working with this particular deck and the system is that sometimes what happens is that the playing cards, as the story unfolds, will validate one of the symbols on the card. And so we have that validation here with scythe and a spade followed by a heart, right? So there may be something that we need to kind of clear up in terms of a confusion, misunderstanding regarding our feelings, and that maybe our feelings have changed as a result of that, and we're needing to kind of clear the air about that. So I'm seeing that with the 5 of Hearts. Now, the 5 of Hearts, now I talked about the lion representing male authority, male leadership, male figure. The 5 of Hearts can represent feminine energy. So this could represent a particular woman who's playing a role in this. If we go with the idea of feminine energy representing a female, then this could represent a female friend or a female family member, because hearts represents relationships that are close to us, right? Near and dear to our heart. So this could be a female friend, or a female relative, or, if we're going to keep it removed, then it could just maybe be a woman who maybe our relationship to her is almost like family. So there's that. So a woman may be playing a role or a part in this. as well. So that is the Five of Hearts. Now, if we go back to the idea about work or business or needing to stay on track with something, the Five of Hearts is also about an opportunity, right? So there may be, again, and I talked about this last week, so there may be a carryover for some people. There may be a career-related opportunity coming your way and needing to work that out. What might you need to eliminate, Scythe? What might you need to cut out or remove or eliminate that would make this opportunity work more in your favor or in your benefit or to your benefit, right? So there's that to consider. But this could represent a career-related opportunity, or it could be an opportunity being presented through a woman in particular, that kind of thing. The one last thing about the Five of Hearts that I will say is that sometimes this card can represent, having your wish come true. So it's like whatever the outcome is, now this was the last card in the line, whatever the outcome is, it's going to seem like it's like a dream come true. Because now I'm hearing a song by a group called Boy Crazy, and you may have to Google that or YouTube it if you're not familiar. But they had a song called A Dream Come True. So I'm hearing that in my head. So for some people, the outcome would be like a dream come true. And it could be a matter of a change of heart, change of feelings, where you're feeling honored and recognized in the course of that particular relationship. So on that note, I will go ahead and end this week's Oracle Outlook. I'm James Himm Mitchell, and as I close, I'd like to thank you for sharing space here with me for this week's reading. And as I did last week, I want to take this moment to acknowledge any new subscribers. Once again, I had an uptick in subscribers, so I was very pleased to see that. So I want to officially welcome you if you have subscribed to the channel. I want to say thank you for taking that step to subscribe. It means so much to me that you would create space for me and what I offer into your everyday world. I don't take that lightly, and I don't take it for granted, so thank you very much for that. But as I always say when I get to this point, whether you are a subscriber or a regular viewer, I can never do what I do here without any of you out there. So, thank you one and all. James Himm Mitchell, signing off for this week's Oracle Outlook. As I close, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful day, and I'm hoping that you have a wonderful week. Take care.